G'day, Stevo Djanda here, just doing a couple of short videos regarding my KTM 1290 Super Adventure R and just the setup I use on this bike, the few modifications I've made and the riding gear that I use for these big solo outback adventure rides that I've done the last few years throughout Australia. So first of all, I'll start with the bike. This particular bike, I've changed the standard seat to a rally seat because being an ex-motocrosser, I can slide the bum back easier and this is far more comfortable. Okay, when I put this seat on, it was the first time I've actually done over 1,000 kilometres in a day on any bike in my life. So, having ridden super bikes for a couple of decades, if you could do 500 k's a day, it was pretty bloody good. But making a change to these bikes, riding them on and off road, this seat, even though it's a little bit taller, I'm used to tall motocross bikes, it wasn't an issue, okay? But that's the reason I like sliding the bum back and forward on there. I love my wheelies and that sort of thing, so I've got more balance control. I'm popping monos when I lift it up. It's like anyone that does monos a lot, they'll know that being able to use your body positioning is a good thing, but also it's just comfortable. It's got extra padding in there. It's super comfortable and I absolutely love it. Second to that, I've got the rally pegs. They're wider. Sit a little bit lower, so the positioning is awesome. The handlebars, any new bike that I get, I'll sit on it. I'll spend, when I get it home from the dealership, I'll set it up, the bars to suit my riding position, along with the levers. I'll put different levers on this one. I'll put the top of the range ASV unbreakable levers, and they've got, instead of just the 5 increments of adjustment that you get on most levers within the stock standard ones from the manufacturer or aftermarket ones, these ones have got 200 increments of adjustment, so they're pretty cool. They look great, but I like to, once again, because I love my monos, when I get the positioning on the clutch perfect, I can just touch it, with one finger and have control, of snapping it up in first, second or third gear. Same with the brakes. Sometimes you change as you're riding as well, and it's so easy to adjust them. So yeah, that's what I've got on the brake setup. I've got the aftermarket hand guards that I like the look of these ones. They're a bit of a bitch to fucking fit, but they're really good quality. So they're called Cypher, I think they're called. I've got a GPS mount, which is a stock standard one from KTM Power Parts, pretty cheap. I've got a Garmin Zumo XT GPS, that's hardwired, but because the bracket snapped this year on the way to Cape York, I've actually ended up just plugging it into the cigarette lighter USB adapter and back into it, and that seems to work now. Just a quad lock, I think they're called, phone mount. I use that because my music between there and Garmin is all linked together. I've got a headlight protector that I've put on there just in case, you're taking a road train, save that beautiful beautiful headlight on these things. Ugly as fuck, but hey, I don't see it much, but anyway, it's to protect that. I've got the Aquapovic exhaust, just the muffler this year with the baffles removed, just to give it a bit of a sound. It's a V-twin and they sound a bit like any stock bike, they're restricted with the Cadillac converter. This year I left the stock header pipe on. The other actual model, I put the whole titanium header on there, but I actually found it lost a little bit of its bottom end torque with the full system, which is sometimes you sacrifice a little bit of bottom end or top end depending on what sort of system you put on there. But instead of putting the full titanium exhaust on there, I went minus one tooth on the front sprocket on this particular new KTM, and I changed the rear sprocket to an aluminium Power Parts one, which is aluminium and steel. It's kind of like, I think it's a super sprock, so I've had them on my dirt bikes for years. They last really good because they've got that steel outer ring. The minus one tooth has just turned this thing into the sort of power that I'm used to coming off super bikes. I asked my dealer to do it on the first one that I bought, and he said, no, you don't need it. But I think a lot of dealers treat you like you're a first-time rider, and because I'm using a KTM dealer now, having ridden Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki's most of my life, I don't really know that, you know, I've raced for a few decades. Most of my bikes on my motocross bikes will always adjust the gearing. So that's just basically what I've done. I don't do the double tape mirrors because I'm not doing like enduro style tracks on this. Occasionally I'll do a little narrow track, but generally I've never really had the issue. If I break a fucking lever or something from dropping it or doing consistent tracks, then I will change it. But if you have, I'm of the belief that if you haven't had an issue with a particular part, I see a lot of people gearing up their bikes with all this fucking stuff, and I think, well, is it really necessary? You know? So I try and keep it cost effective without unnecessary changes. If you know, unless there's a purpose for it. So that's pretty much what I've done to this. As far as suspension goes, it's all stock. You've got these little markers here as to how much fork travel you're using. I'm pretty close to the bottom there. That's a good indication. It's something that we've done with racing, whether it's road racing or motocross. You'd always want to be using all of your travel on the biggest jump, and you know, on the motocross bike, you just want it to just be bottoming out. And a couple of times this has, you know, when I'm hitting tracks really hard and I hit a big deep pothole and that, it'll just be right there, and I know it's pretty well spot on. When I'm loaded, I make a couple of adjustments on the rear end, depending. I try and travel as light as possible with my gear. I've got everything I need, you know, more than enough, but I try and keep the adjustments just accordingly with the extra weight. So on the, you know, you've got a spring, you can wind that spring down harder a little bit. I've just done that a couple of full turns, and that's pretty much all I've really done. I did make a couple of adjustments to the dampening and the preload, which has been great for, you know, hitting the mountain twisties hard, but sometimes it can be a little bit too hard for off-road. So I went back to the standard and just left it with the spring down. That's pretty much it. There might be something that I've missed, but that's pretty much it as far as the bike goes. Tyres, I go from the stock ones to, I use Motors, GPS front and rear. I found them really great. I get around 10 to 13,000 k's in the rear, approximately 20,000 k's in the front. A lot of people think, oh, you need more hardcore knobby. I've been fucking all the places that the tour groups are going, bar a couple that are really fucking deep crossing. You've got to carry the fucking bike across the river with the shoulders. These tyres are fucking awesome in all terrains, and I haven't had a problem with it. You know, I tried a different Midas E7 over in the first trip up to Cape York because the dealer didn't have one of these, and then I ordered one the second time so I could get it in. But they're long wearing, they handle good, they haven't got too much road noise. I run them tubeless. The front one, when I went up to East Arnhem in 2023, copped a few big dents on the potholes, and I ended up losing air from the bead. And when I had it repaired, it was still losing air overnight, so I ended up putting a heavy duty tube. I will carry one front heavy duty tube with me, which I can put in the back or the front if that situation happens. Otherwise, I just have a full plug kit underneath the seat, which you know, just a tubeless repair kit. I've done a couple of repairs throughout my travels last few years, and it works. Yeah, so that's my setup. I keep it simple. Tyre pressure is 28 in front off-road, 32 fully loaded. If I'm unloaded and doing a ride, once I'm based somewhere, I'll drop that down to 30. Occasionally 26 and 28, but I like to keep the pressures up. When I was up in the Kimberley, the first time on my solo adventure on an Africa Twin, I bumped into Daryl Beattie, and I said, look, I've raced for many years. We used to run 10, 12 PSI in our tyres for motocross, and I said, what do you run on these big girls? Because that was my first big adventure bike up in Broome, and I bumped of all the people, Daryl Beattie rocks up with his full-on adventure business. I thought, fucking hell, how bizarre is that? So I caught up with him, had a good chat with him, and the biggest thing I wanted to know, because I've ridden all my life, was what tyre pressures do you run? Everything else is like, I know how to set up the bikes, you know, took the suspension, do the things that I want to do without, you know, going overboard. And there was the tyre pressures, and he said, 28 and 30, and I think, far out, that's pretty hard. He goes, it's just a safety thing, you know. I guess especially with a group, you don't want to be repairing punches all the time. Now, it does make it a bit difficult in the soft sand, of course. But the thing is, I've still managed. You just got to slow it down, and it takes a lot more skill to ride softer sand with harder tyres. There's no denying that. And if it was really, really, really soft and you just had to get out, then yeah, let the fuckers down. I've got a little compressor that I'll carry with me, and you can put them back in, pump them back up. But I've never actually done that because I've just managed to, you know, ride through the soft shit. So that's pretty much my setup, and a quick spill on my bike. Another good thing about the KTM 1290 is that, you know, you can adjust a lot of the adjustments without the need of tools. It's only the rebound damping on the rear shock that you need a screwdriver, but the front, you know, you can adjust that if the track's a little bit, you know, like a lot of corrugation or something. You just want to, you know, change the settings on there to make it react a little bit better to the ride conditions. But generally, I just leave the bike as it is once I've done that test ride with it loaded up. I'll do a test ride around home, maybe a little bit off road, you know, just locally drumming up, and be content with how it is, but never scared to make adjustments as I'm going. So that's the quick spill on my KTM. As far as luggage goes, I use Moscow Moto, no modifications, no big brackets. I think that's all bullshit. This is just while I'm home in Mandurah. I use this little thing that I bought. It was eBay or fucking one of those things for 40 bucks. I don't give a fuck about where it comes from. It's good quality as well. You know, my wife just bought me a Alpine Stars one off one of those things as well, Termi or something, and it's fucking brilliant quality. The one thing that she did buy me was a new Camelback, because I've had this Camelback for like 10 years. It's done all the trips up north. It's just a 2-litre one that she got from work, so I got that for free. And it works a treat, you know. So I'll have this, and then I might have you know, a bit of backup with like electrolytes or whatever. You've got to stay hydrated, you know, especially riding up through the top end. I've only just upgraded to a new one this year. I haven't even really used it yet. I only did a short trip down to Margaret River recently on the 1290. This one's a 3-litre, and it's also got extra storage in it. And the price was pretty good as well. It wasn't as cheap as something off Termi, but the quality is there, and you've got the branding of KTM. I went the orange and blue because it's a bit of visibility is pretty good, I think. I think that's important. So that's my new hydration pack. So yeah, going back to this luggage, I've just got Moscow Moto, bought a second hand of some local dude here in WA. I think it's the guy that owns the Adventure On store. Didn't negotiate much with it, but it's been worth it. I think I've just had it restitched from last year's trip going to KTM. It's only just now, after 3 big trips around Australia, that got a little bit of split in one of the sides from loading it and unloading it. When I bought it off him, it was a bit dirty and that. I just gave it a really good clean. I put some new foam backing on it, so it just sits on here. Look at the bike. This has done 25,000 k's. You can't even tell it's been on there. So it sits on there really easy. Once again, from eBay or something, I just bought a 66-litre bag that just sits on the back, and I've just bought some straps from Anaconda in Rockingham. That's just double straps on the back. The 66-litre isn't full. I'm probably lucky if you put 40 or 50 litres in there. It's got everything in there: tent, you know, little seat, cooking stuff, all the stuff you need. I even took, you know, this big. 2 of my trips, I took this big boombox, you know, this JBL, because I like to listen to a bit of music. You know, listening to your favourite music in a remote location is pretty friggin' awesome. So that's been adjusted since. My wife, once again, likes to look after me, and she's got me a more compact little one that I use now. I use that for the 2024 Outback Adventure, and I actually use, there's times when you just want to listen to your favourite vibes once you've set up camp. So that's really good. So that's pretty much my setup there. Fuel wise, I get around about 350 k's average to a tank. If I take it really easy, it's amazing. It's a bit like my Malibu that I've had a few different HFVs over the years. If you drive it like in style, you get 300 k's, but if you take it easy, you get 600 or 700. Don't get 600 or 700 out of this, so that's a myth. Probably get 480, I think it read once, to empty when I was just really putting along. But then I've got this extra 11 litres giant loop. The first year that I went over to Phillip Island, I used a different brand, and it split by the time I got to the Atherton Tablelands, because it was probably, might have been partially my fault because I tightened it too much, but the quality of this has been far more superior. If I'm running this full and the tank full, I can get between 750, 800 Ks, which is more than enough as far as I'm concerned. I used it when I went to Arnhem. I think it was a 650K run. There is a petrol station in between, but I always like to carry a bit of extra fuel in case I'm going off a couple of different tracks, and always allow this is just myself, this is not anyone else's take on what they should do. This is just me feeling what is necessary when you're doing these big remote rides. I always like to have about 100 Ks buffer, not 50. Even though I've milked it to the lights flashing, I've rocked up a few times, you know, Jabiru, the light was flashing. I did run out of fuel last year, I missed a fuel stop. On the Great Central Road, just living in the moment, singing, fucking whatever, missed a stop, and then luckily this French guy had 10 litres on top of his car. Why? Because I didn't fill up the fuel bladder. If I had the fuel bladder, that's exactly 11 litres. This French guy gave me 10 litres. I made it to the next stop and the light was flashing. So I had fucked up before, but anyway, that's my fuel setup. Moscow Moto, cheap fucking, it's a dry bag, but it's still going good after 3 trips now. I've done 3 big trips, there's nothing wrong with it. I did buy a 50 litre one, but it actually didn't sit as good. It sat more high, and I ended up using the 66 litre one, and you can wrap it up more. And it's got flexibility. If I take my riding gear off, and I want to put my jacket in there or strap it on top, there's plenty of room. It just sort of sits better and more balanced. As far as riding gear goes, I use the Tech 7s. Motocross, I used to use Tech 10s with the inner booty, because I find the Tech 7s, they're just motocross boots. I didn't go the enduro of this. I'm just used to many years of riding with motocross boots. Helmet's a LS2 Explorer, which is a carbon fibre model. I had the early model. Well, that's a carbon fibre Explorer model as well, but I'm onto my second one already. The actual visor, it's got a tinted inner visor inside of it that actually just break, but I can wear this with goggles, or just wear it as it is. Very rarely do I wear the goggles, because I think that's more designed on a group ride where you want to keep that dust out of your face. On my own, I don't really have a problem. I've just got an old GoPro mount on the front, and then I've got a I can't remember the name of the intercom system, but it's a Cardo Pack Talk, the same as what Chris Birch uses, and I've got the upgraded speakers for extra sound. Another thing that I use for riding is just the KTM adventure gear. I tried a few different brands, and I was restricted with how I could move. The adventure gear, it's expensive, but I think it's my 3rd year that I've used the same gear. It's got 3 different liners, so it's an all-season sort of so that you can open up the breathers as you get hot, or pull out the liner. You know, having ridden through Canberra where it was -3, I had thermals on, then the full liners, and then as the day progresses, you can just take those layers off, whack it in that bag that's a little bit bigger for those sorts of things, and that's really comfortable. And it's wearing really good. It's got inserts, gel inserts, shoulders, elbows, knees, and then I'll wear that in my camelback. It's got little pockets so you can have your wallet in there for when you're fueling up. And something else after riding through from Nullarbor, not Nullarbor, from the Australian MotoGP in 22, I rode across the Nullarbor, and it was fucking windy, and I had the full titanium exhaust with no baffles in there, and I came back from that ride and I've started with tinnitus now, so it's not really bad. I've always had it. I think everyone has a bit of tinnitus from all those years working in the building trade, and different powered tools and what have you. Always wear earplugs for work, or earmuffs for particular tools that I use, compactor or whatever. But that constant wind and that noise. I had a guy research suggested I should be wearing. I said, I should be right. I've never had them for racing or whatever. But I started to get it more loud. So now I actually use Alpine. I find them pretty good. I'm due for another pair because actual end bits have sort of popped out. Originally I didn't even know they used a little stick to put in there, so I wasn't even using them properly, but yeah, I've worked it out. I'm a bit of a slow learner when it comes to using stuff properly, but I use them now. I've got 2 different levels there, one for local rides and one for bigger rides, for different, blocking out a different amount of sounds, but I can still hear my intercom and music really good. So that's pretty much my riding gear, my hydration pack, my luggage, my tyres. There's probably a few other bits that I've missed. As far as gear goes, yeah, I've got, here we go. 2021 up in the Kimberley, I had the Africa Twin. I did the Karanji stock route, which runs between Wyndham and the Gibb River Road and comes out near El Questro. Now, I did that on the 1100 Africa Twin, and there was actually a guy that did it a couple of years prior to me that actually got lost and got stuck in the salt flats, and he actually passed away. And I read about that, and I wasn't on a mission to do it and try and get myself in the same situation, but I actually got lost as well. The track disappears and hadn't been open for a couple of years since he went on it, because there was really heavy rain and the track was sort of non-existent. So they were just about to reopen it for a cattle muster. I dropped into, there's a station up there, big cattle station, and I dropped in there first, and then I thought, you know, I'm going to do it. And anyway, I dropped in at Wyndham Bakery and had a bite to eat, and they said, what are you up to? I said, oh, I'm just on the Crunchy Stock Route. She said, you know, it's on Passway. I said, so I'm fully aware of that. I'd forgotten about it on the morning, but she reminded me. And I had my Camelback. I had an extra 2 bottles of, you know, like Gatorade. She walks out with 2 2-litre bottles of water and says, here, take these. And I said, wow. I said, oh, you want some money? And he said, no, these, I just want you to take them. I said, okay, thank you. So I took those extra, you know, two bottles of 2-litre of water, and I actually ended up drinking it because I did end up becoming lost on the track for, you know, a while there, because it disappeared, and I was fully mindful that this other guy on an Africa Twin as well, mind you. It's only a young bloke, you know, mid-30s, 40, wasn't even 40 yet, I don't think. Got stuck in it, and no one knew where he was or anything, and he perished. You know, the guy passed away from simply being in a remote location, not enough fluid, and that was it. So anyway, I went up there, and it was my first year of riding purely solo. I let my wife know what I'm doing each and every day, and we've travelled extensively up through the Gibb River Road many times as a family, and I've ridden a fair bit, but I've never done this particular track, and especially not on a bigger bike. You know, the other bikes I've done run were like dirt bikes, you know, on smaller single cylinders. So anyway, I got lost and got to know my bearings, KTM ranges, and so that you can see those landmarks. So this sort of went with my you know, without licking my finger and looking at the fucking sky. I pretty much went with my gut feeling, and took this fucking gnarly hill track, which had rocky outcrops, and tested every bit of riding ability that I could possibly throw at it without throwing it down. And once I got up the top of this hill, I was able to see where I needed to go, and I made it through. But anyway, the story behind that is my wife said, you need to get one of these now. So I did, purchased it, and every year before I set off, I reactivate my subscription. I think it cost me $25 a month. I get to do 10 messages, and obviously, yeah, you've got the benefit of, if something does happen, you can hit the SOS, and the squad team comes down from the helicopters and rescues you, which hopefully will never happen. But when I did drown my bike on the Savannah Way last year, first thing I did was message my wife that I was camping the night, and I'm okay. You know, don't need to let her know the fine details. I did pass on a message to one of the guys coming through and asked him just to send a message by phone that he'd bumped into me, that I was okay, and he did that for me, so thank you for that guy from Perth. Can't remember your name, but yeah, this is something I use now because it could have happened to me. You know, what happened to that other guy, and looking back now, I feel like a bit of a fucking idiot, really, but that's what happens when you've been riding for many years. And you know, I've had moments when I've drowned bikes, I've been lost a few times through sand dunes and, you know, different tracks and whatnot. And the funny thing is, I didn't even have a GPS on that Africa Twin. So, but like I said, I knew my bearings, sort of thing. But if something happened, it ended up being 36 degrees that day. So the fact is, when I made it to the Pentecost River, I was just like, fuck, I was fucking exhausted. Even drank all of that fucking water, I was like, still hot. I think if that lady didn't give me the water, I might have fucked up, you know. I think, in all honesty, that lady from the Wyndham Bakery might have, you know, that might have been the difference of me making it through that day, looking back at it. But yeah, made it to the Gibb River Road. first thing I did was shot up towards Alquestro, and just opposite Alquestro is Emma Gorge, and there's a pub there, so fucking can have a schooner play. One of many outback adventures that I shall be sharing with you over a series of videos. This one's probably gone a bit longer as well, but once again, like I said to Peter, I'll get sidetracked a little bit. Hopefully this was a good informative video with the basics of how I'm set up. If there's any questions, please leave a question in the comments, or what you thought of this video, how I can improve it. I would appreciate your feedback, and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers, Stevo.